Scene 2. Scene the same. The lamp is going out. Through the windows and the glass panes of the doors, a cloudy morning is seen. The sea is rough. The sentry is at his post as before. The captain is lying on the couch asleep. Kurt is in the chair beside him, pale and vigil-worn. Alice enters, left. Alice. Is he asleep? Kurt. Yes. Since what should have been sunrise. How was the night? He slept from time to time, but he would talk so much. What about? He kept on arguing about religion like a schoolboy, yet claimed to have solved the riddle of the universe. Finally, towards dawn, he discovered the immortality of the soul. To his own honor. Exactly. He really is the most arrogant person I've ever met. I am. Therefore God exists. Now you see. Look at those boots. He'd have trampled the earth flat with them if he could. He's trampled other people's fields and gardens with them and other people's toes. And my skull. Killer Bear, you've got your bullet now. Kurt. He would be a comic if he were not tragic. And there's a touch of greatness in his pettiness. Can't you say one good word for him? Alice, sitting down. Yes. So long as he doesn't hear it. One word of encouragement sends him mad with pride. He can't hear anything. He has had morphia. He was brought up in a poor home with many brothers and sisters, and early on had to support his family by giving lessons, as his father was a waster, or worse. It's pretty hard for a young man to have to forego all the pleasures of youth and slave for a pack of ungrateful children whom he hadn't brought into the world. When I was a little girl, I used to see Edgar as a young man. He had no overcoat in winter, in freezing winter, but his little sisters had duffel coats. That was fine, and I admired him. That was ugliness made me shudder. And his ugliness can be pretty sinister. I noticed that, especially when we weren't on good terms. And when he wasn't actually present, his image swelled and took on frightful shapes and sizes, so that he literally haunted me. Then think of me. But his years as a young officer were certainly a martyrdom, although now and then he got help from somebody rich. He never will admit that. He's taken everything that he could get as a tribute that was his due, without a word of thanks. We were to speak well of him, after he's dead. Oh well. I don't remember anymore. Do you think he's vindictive? Yes. And yet he can be so kind and sentimental. As an enemy, he's simply terrible. Why hasn't he been promoted? You ought to know that for yourself. They don't want a man over them who was a tyrant when he was under them. But you mustn't let on you know about that. He says himself he didn't want to be a major. Did he mention the children at all? Yes, he... Mrs. Judith. I can well believe it. Oh, do you know what Judith is? His own image, whom he has trained to bait me. Just think. She, my own daughter, raised her hand against me. That's going too far. Hush. He's moving. Supposing he heard. He's cunning, too. He's just waking up. Doesn't he look like an ogre? I'm frightened of him. The captain stirs, wakes, sits up, and looks about. It's morning. At last. Kurt, how do you feel now? Bad. Do you want the doctor? No. I want to see Judith, my child. Kurt, wouldn't it be wise to get your affairs in order before... in case anything should happen? What do you mean? What should happen? What happens to us all, Oh, rot. I shan't die as easily as that, you may be sure. Don't rejoice prematurely, Alice. Kurt, think of your children. Make your will, so that at least your wife can keep the furniture. Is she to inherit while I'm still alive? No. But if anything does happen, she oughtn't to be thrown out into the street. The person who has looked after these things for 25 years and polished and dusted them, she ought to have the right to keep them. Shall I send for the lawyer? No. You're a hard man. Harder than I thought. Oh, here it comes again. He falls back, unconscious on the couch. Alice, moving right. There's someone in the kitchen. I must go. Yes, go. There's nothing much to do here. Exit Alice, right. The captain, regaining consciousness. Well, Kurt, how do you mean to run this quarantine station? It will work out. But I'm commandant on the island, so you'll have to deal with me. Don't forget that. Have you seen a quarantine station? Have I? Yes. Before you were born. And I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't put the disinfecting chambers too near the shore. I thought they ought to be near the water. That shows you how much you know about your business. Why, water's the element of the bacilli. Their life element. But salt water's essential for washing away impurities. Idiot! Now, as soon as you've settled in, you must bring your children here. Do you think they'll let themselves be brought? Of course. If you're anything of a man, it would make a good impression on the neighborhood to see you doing your duty in that respect too. I've always done my duty in that respect. The captain, raising his voice. It's in that respect you've failed most. Haven't I told you that? Because one doesn't desert one's children in that way. Oh, how you do go on. As a relative of yours, an elder relative, I feel it is my place to tell you the truth, even if it's bitter. And you mustn't take it amiss. Are you hungry? Yes, I am. Would you like something light? No. Something substantial. That would be the end of you. It isn't enough to be ill without starving too. That's how it is. And not to drink and not to smoke. Such a life scarcely worth living. Death requires sacrifices. Or else he comes at once. Alice enters with some flowers, telegrams, and letters. Alice. These are for you. She tosses the flowers on the writing table. The captain, flattered. For me? Let me see them. Alice, giving him the telegrams and letters. Oh, they're only from the band and the bombardiers. You're jealous. Oh, no. If they were laurel wreaths, it would be a different matter. But you can never get those. Here's a wire from the colonel. Read it, Kurt. The colonel's a gentleman anyhow, though he's a bit of an ass. This one's from... what does it say? It's from Judith. Please wire her to come to the next boat. And this. So one's not without friends after all. It's good of them to think of a sick man, a deserving man better than his rank, without fear and without reproach. Alice, I don't understand. Are they congratulating you for being ill? The captain. Hyena. Alice to Kurt. Yes, we had a doctor here who was so much hated that when he left after the island they gave a banquet not for him, but after him. Put the flowers in vases. I'm certainly not credulous. And people are scum, but this simple homage. My God, it's genuine. It can't be anything but genuine. Alice. Fool. Kurt, reading the telegram. Judith says she can't come because the boat's held up by the storm. The captain. Is that all? No, there's a bit more. She begs Papa not to drink so much. What impertinence. There's children for you. There's my own beloved daughter, my Judith, my idol. And image. There's life for you. And its greatest blessings. And devil take it. Now you're reaping what you sowed. You set her against her mother, now she's turning against her father. Tell me there isn't a God. The captain to Kurt. What does the colonel say? He grants you a leave of absence. Nothing more. Leave of absence? I haven't asked for it. Alice. No, but I have. I don't accept it. Arrangements have already been made. I don't accept that. You see, Kurt, for this man no laws exist. He doesn't recognize any rules or regulations. He's above everything, everybody. The universe is created for his private use. The sun and the moon revolve to carry his praises to the stars. Such is my husband, the insignificant captain who can never become a major, whose pompousness makes him a laughingstock to everyone, while he imagines he is feared. This poor creature who's afraid of the dark and puts his faith in barometers, and all this adds up to what a curtain. A barrel full of manure, and not of the best quality. The captain has been fanning himself complacently with a bunch of flowers and not listening to Alice. The captain. Have you asked Kurt to breakfast? No. Then go at once and prepare 2 steaks. 2 really good Chateaubriands. 2. I'm going to have one. But there are 3 of us. Are you going to have some? I'll get 3 then. Where am I to get them? Last night you asked Kurt to supper and there wasn't a crust of bread in the house. Kurt has had to keep watch all night on an empty stomach. And he's had no coffee because there isn't any. And our credit's finished. She's angry with me for not dying yesterday. No, for not dying 25 years ago. For not dying before I was born. Listen to her. This is the result of your matchmaking, my dear Kurt. Our marriage wasn't made in heaven, that's for certain. Alice and Kurt look at each other menacingly. The captain rises and goes towards the door left. However, say what you will. I'm going on duty now. He puts on an old-fashioned artillery helmet, fastens on his sword, and puts on his cape. Alice and Kurt try to stop him, but in vain. Out of my way! Exit. Yes, go. You always do go. You always turn your back when the battle gets too hot for you and you leave your wife to cover up your retreat. Boozer! Boaster, liar! Curses on you! This is a bottomless pit, and you don't know it all yet. Is there more to come? I'm ashamed. Where is he gone now? And how has he got the strength? You may well ask. Well, he has gone down to the bombardiers to thank them for the flowers, and then he'll eat and drink with them and slander his fellow officers. If you knew how many times he's been threatened with dismissal. Only consideration for his family has kept him in his post, and he imagines it's fear of his superiority. And those poor officers' wives who have taken pains on our behalf, he hates and abuses. Kurt. I must confess that I applied for this post in order to get some peace out here by the sea. I knew nothing of your circumstances. Poor Kurt. How will you get something to eat? Oh, I'll go to the doctor's. But what about you? Please, let me arrange something for you. So long as he doesn't know about it. If he did, he'd kill me. Kurt, looking out of the window. Look. There he is out in the storm on the rampart. He is to be pitied for being like this. You are both to be pitied. What can be done? I don't know. A batch of bills came too, which he didn't see. It can be an advantage sometimes not to see. Alice, at the window. He has opened his cape and is letting the wind blow on his breast. So he wants to die. I don't think he wants to, for just now when he felt his own life ebbing away, he held fast onto mine and began to busy himself with my affairs, as if he wanted to get inside me and live my life. That is his vampire nature, to seize hold of other people's fates, to suck interest from the lives of others, to order and arrange for others because his own life is absolutely without interest. So remember, Kurt, never let him into your family life. Never allow him to know your friends, for he'll take them from you and make them his own. He's a real wizard at that. If he met your children, he would soon find they were his nearest and dearest. And he'd tell them what to do and bring them up to suit his own ideas, and above all, against you. Alice, it wasn't he who took my children away from me. It was he. When, putting your entire trust in my husband, you sent him out as a mediator to your wife. He started an affair with her and put her up to how she could get the children. Oh God. Oh God in heaven. There you have another side of him. Do you know, last night when he thought he was dying, he made me to promise to look after his children. But surely you won't revenge yourself on my children. By keeping my promise? Yes. I shall look after your children. That is really the greatest revenge you could take. For there's nothing he loathes so much as magnanimity. Kurt, so I can consider myself revenged, without taking any revenge. I love the justice of revenge. It delights me to see how evil gets punished. You still feel like that? Yes, and always shall. The day I forgave or loved an enemy, I should be a hypocrite. Alice, it can be a duty not to say everything, not to see everything. That's known as tolerance, a thing we all need. I don't. My life is open and clear, and I have always been above board. That's saying a lot, but it's not saying enough. What haven't I gone through for no fault of my own? For this man whom I have never loved. Why did you marry? Ask yourself. Because he took me, seduced me. I don't know. And then I wanted to better myself. So you abandoned your art, which was despised. But you see, he cheated me. He promised me a good life, a beautiful home, and there was nothing but debts. The only gold was in his uniform, and that wasn't gold either. He cheated me. Wait a bit. When a young man falls in love, he sees ahead the fulfillment of all of his hopes. He must be forgiven if these hopes aren't always realized. I had the same deceit on my own conscience, without considering myself a cheat. What are you looking at out there? I was looking to see if he had fallen. Has he fallen? Unfortunately not. He always cheats me. Well, I shall go and see the doctor and the district attorney. Alice, seating herself by the window. Go, my dear Kurt. I shall sit here and wait. I have learnt how to wait. Act 2. Scene 1. 2 days later. Scene the same, by daylight. The sentry is marching by the battery as before. Alice is sitting in the armchair right. Her hair is now grey. There is a knock on the door left, and Kurt enters. Kurt. Good morning, Alice. Good morning, my dear. Sit down. Kurt, sitting in the armchair left. Steamer's just come in. Then I know what we're in for. If he's on it. He is. I saw the glitter of his helmet. I wonder what he's been doing in town. I can tell you. As he was in parade dress, he was seeing the colonel. And as he took his best gloves, he was paying calls. Did you notice how quiet he was yesterday? Since he stopped drinking, he's been a different person. Calm, reserved, considerate. I know. If that man had always kept sober, he would have been a power to reckon with. Perhaps it's lucky for people that he made himself ridiculous and impotent with his whiskey. The spirit of the bottle has chastened him. But have you noticed that since death has set his mark on him, he has this kind of lofty dignity? It's possible that these new thoughts of immortality have given him a new view of life. You're deceiving yourself. He's up to no good. And don't believe a word he says, because he lies deliberately, and knows the art of intrigue better than anybody. Kurt, gazing at Alice. Alice, what's this? In these 2 nights your hair has turned grey. No, my dear. It has been like that for a long time. I have simply stopped darkening it, as my husband is as good as dead. 25 years in a fortress. Did you know this was a prison in olden times? The walls look it. So does my complexion. Even the children had the pallor of prison here. I find it kind of hard to imagine small children prattling within these walls. Nor do they prattle much. And the 2 who died perished from lack of light. Kurt, what do you think is going to happen now? A determined attack on us. I saw a familiar gleam in his eye when you read out that telegram from Judith. It should, of course, have been for her, but she, as you know, always gets off scot-free. So his hatred descended on you. Kurt, what does he mean to do to me, do you think? Hard to say. But he's very clever. Or lucky, in nosing out other people's secrets. You must have noticed yesterday how he seemed to be living in your quarantine station. How he was sucking an interest in life from your existence, and eating your children alive. Man-eater, you see. His own life is ebbing hers. Already ebbed. I have that impression, too, that he is already on the other side. His face seems phosphorescent, as if he's begun to decompose and his eyes flicker like will-o'-the-wisps over graves and swamps. Here he comes. Tell me, have you thought of the possibility of him being jealous? Alice. No, he's too conceited for that. Show me the man I would need to be jealous of, that's what he says. So much the better. Even his faults have their merits. Well, in any case, shall I go out and meet him? No. Be ungracious, or else he'll think you're insincere. And when he starts lying, pretend to believe him. I'm so good at translating his lies and can always get at the truth with my dictionary. I feel something terrible is going to happen. But Kurt, don't lose your self-control. My one advantage in the long struggle has been that I was always sober, and therefore had my wits about me. He always resorted to his whiskey. Now we shall see. Enter the captain, left, in parade dress, helmet, cape, and white gloves. Calm, dignified, but pale and hollow-eyed. He stumbles forward and sits down right, still in his helmet and cape, at a distance from Kurt and Alice. During the following dialogue, the captain holds his sword between his knees. Good morning. I apologize for sitting down like this, but I'm rather tired. Alice. How are you? Fine. Just a little tired. What news from town? This and that. Among other things, I went to the doctor, and he said it was nothing, and I could live another 20 years if I looked after myself. Alice to Kurt aside. Now he's lying. To the captain. That's very good news, my dear. That it was. Silence, during which the captain looks at Alice and Kurt expectantly. Alice to Kurt. Don't say anything. Let him talk first. Then he'll show his hand. The captain to Alice. Did you speak? No, I didn't. Listen, Kurt. You see, now it's coming. I was in town, as you know. Kurt nods assent. Well, I made the acquaintance, among others, of a young cadet in the artillery. Pause, during which Kurt appears uneasy. As we are short of cadets here, I arranged with the colonel that he should come over. That ought to please you, particularly when I tell you that this cadet was your own son. Alice to Kurt. Vampire, you see? Kurt. In the ordinary way that would please a father, but in my circumstances it is merely painful. I don't understand. You don't need to. It's enough that I don't want this. Really? Is that how you feel? Then you had better know that the young man has been ordered to report here. And from that moment he takes his orders from me. I shall make him to apply to be transferred to another regiment. You can't do that, as you have no rights over your own son. The court assigned those to the mother. Then I will get in touch with his mother. You don't need to do that, because I've already done it. Ha! Kurt rises, but subsides again. Alice to Kurt. Now he must die. He really is a man-eater. So much for that. Did you two say something? No. Is anything wrong with your hearing? Yes, slightly. But if you'll come nearer, I'll tell you something in confidence. That's not necessary. And a witness may be adventurous to both parties. You're right there. It's always good to have a witness. First of all, have you got the will ready? Alice, handing him a document. The solicitor drew it up himself. In your favor. Good. He reads the document and tears it carefully into strips, which he throws on the floor. So much for that. Alice to Kurt. Did you ever see such a man? He isn't a man. Now, Alice, I have this to say to you. Well, go on. On account of your long-expressed desire to put an end to this miserable life in an unfortunate union, on account of the lack of affection with which you have treated your husband and children, and on account of your neglect of your household duties during my visit to town today, I filed a petition for divorce at the county court. Indeed? On what grounds? The captain, calmly as before. Apart from the grounds already mentioned, on purely personal ones. In fact, now that it has been established that I may live for another 20 years, I have it in mind to exchange this unfortunate union for one that suits me better. I intend to untie my destiny with that of a woman who will bring into the home not only devotion to her husband, but youth, and, let it be said, a little beauty. Alice takes off her wedding ring and throws it at the captain. Here you are! The captain picks up the ring and puts it in his waistcoat pocket. The captain. She has thrown away her ring. Will the witness kindly mark that? Alice, agitated. So you mean to throw me out and put another woman in my house? Maybe. Then we'll have some plain speaking now. Kurt, my cousin, this man is guilty of attempting to murder his wife. To murder? Yes. He pushed me into the water. There were no witnesses. That's a lie. Judith saw it. What's that matter? She can give evidence. No, she can't. She says she saw nothing. You've taught the child to lie. I had no need to. You taught her that already. Did you see Judith? Yes. Oh, God. Oh, God. Fortress has surrendered. The enemy is granted 10 minutes for evacuation under safe conduct. Puts his watch on the table. 10 minutes by the watch on the table. The captain remains standing with his hand on his heart. Alice goes up to him and seizes his arm. What is this? I don't know. Do you want something? A drink? Whiskey? No. I don't want to die, see? Straightens up. Don't touch me. Draws his sword. 10 minutes. Or the garrison will be cut down. Exit. Kurt. What is this man? He's a fiend, not a man. What does he want with my son? He wants him as a hostage, so that he can be your master. He wants to isolate you from the island authorities. You know that people call this island Little Hell. Oh, I didn't know. Alice, you are the first woman who has aroused my pity. All the others seem to me to deserve what they got. Don't desert me now. Don't leave me. He beats me. He has beat me for 25 years in front of the children, too. He has pushed me into the sea. After this revolution, I am utterly against him. I came here without ill feeling, putting out of my mind his former humiliations and slanders. I forgave him even when you told me that it was he who had separated me from my children, because he was sick and dying. But now that he wants to rob me of my son, he must die. He or I. Well said. No surrender of the fortress. Rather, blow it up, and him with it. Even if we must perish too. I have the gunpowder ready. When I came here, I bore no malice. And when I felt myself infected by your hatred, I made up my mind to go away. But now I feel impelled to hate this man, as I have hated evil itself. What is to be done? He has taught me the tactics. Rouse his enemies and seek allies. Think of him getting in touch with my wife. Why didn't those two meet a generation ago? Then there would have been battles enough to shake the earth. But now these kindred spirits have met, and they must be separated. I think I know his vulnerable point. I have long suspected it. Who is his surest enemy on the island? The quartermaster. Is he an honest fellow? Yes, he is. And he knows what I know too. He knows what the sergeant major and the captain have been up to. What have they been up to? Do you mean embezzlement? That's really shocking. No, I won't have anything to do with that. Ha. So you can't aim a blow at an enemy. I could once, but I can't now. Why not? Because I have discovered that retribution comes in any case. While you're waiting for it, your son will be taken from you. Look at my grey hair. Yes, and feel how thick it still is. He means to get married, so I'm free to do the same. And in 10 minutes' time, he will be down below, under arrest, stamping on the floor. Down below! And I shall dance on his head. I shall dance the entry at the Boyers. She dances a few steps with her hands on her hips. And I shall play the piano so he hears. Bangs on the keys. Ah, the tower is opening its gates, and the guard with the drawn sword will not be guarding me any more, but him! Melitamta, melitaliale! Him will be the guard! Kurt watches her, fascinated. Alice, are you a devil too? Alice jumps on a chair and pulls down the laurel wreaths. These I will take with me when I make my exit. The laurels of triumph and waving ribbons. A little bit dusty, but eternally green, like my youth. I am not old, Kurt. Kurt, with shining eyes. You're a devil. In little hell. Look, now I must make myself beautiful. Takes down her hair. In 2 minutes I shall dress, and another 2 go to the quartermaster, and then up goes the fortress sky high. Kurt, as before. You're a devil. Alice, you always said that, even when we were children. Do you remember when we were children and got engaged? Ah, you were shy, of course. Kurt, seriously. Alice! Yes, you were. And it suited you. You know, there are bold women who like shy men. And seems there are shy men who like bold women. You did like me rather in those days, didn't you? I don't know where I am, with an actress whose manners are free, but who is all the same a very fine woman. Yes. But now I am free. Free! Turn your back while I change my blouse. She unbuttons her blouse. Kurt rushes forward, takes her in his arms, and lifts her up. He bites her neck, and she screams. Then Kurt throws Alice down onto the couch and rushes out left.